I think after listening to Bab Dada's recent Murli of the 15th December, all of us are experiencing one thing in particular, and that is to transform ourselves individually in such a way that we are able to reveal Baba through our practical life. Is that right? And I'm sure we are also thinking about what I can do, what we can do individually in order to achieve that aim. Transformation can happen on many levels, but the deepest transformation that brings total transformation within oneself is the transformation of our own deep-rooted sanskaras. Because sanskaras are not only something connected with this life, but it is something that we are carrying on from past births also. And one of the methods Baba has taught us to transform such sanskara is not by trimming the sanskaras using the power of knowledge. Because when we use the power of knowledge, we do experience transformation for a temporary time. It is something like trimming the tree. For a while, it seems like it has disappeared. But the seed of that sanskara is still deep within. So whenever we are put in an atmosphere, situation, the seed is being watered. And all of a sudden, the same emerges into a tree. So what kind of yoga, what quality of yoga, what stage of yoga is necessary in order to burn that seed, and not only burn it, but immerse those ashes into the ocean so that the name and trace of it disappears. So for that, Baba has inspired us even last year. The quality of yoga that we need for that is in the form of fire. Baba said, fiery form of yoga. Sometimes it is translated as volcanic form, in which the name and seed of that seed is totally finished. So what I thought was this morning to just share with you some aspects of experiencing this stage of yoga so that we can help ourselves to a great extent. We all have heard of these three words: yoga, remembrance, and tapasya. So what is yoga? Definitely, we need to have yoga before having remembrance. And we need to have remembrance before we move on to tapasya. The word yoga can be translated in different ways. Sometimes you can call it as union, communion, connection, link. But if I want to transform yoga into remembrance, it's important for me to use the definition of the word yoga as relationship. Because relationship is something natural. Relationship is life. We are always with relationship. We are never alone. And so when we understand yoga in the form of relationship, it gives us the feeling of making yoga easy. Relationship of the soul with the Supreme Soul. Once I am able to make this link in the form of relationship, then I will be able to have the remembrance of the one with whom I have made this contact. So we often explain to people the foundation of Raj Yoga is based on 3 words: love, relationship, and remembrance. So no relationship can exist without 2 things. First, there has to be love, and secondly, there has to be faith. I look at it as the cementing force for any relationship: love and faith. When I'm able to have love for Baba, and when I'm able to have faith in Baba, that relationship is strengthened. So yoga actually becomes natural in the form of remembrance. Like for example, when I am a child, I remember my parents. It is yoga, but it is in the form of remembrance because it is based on love and faith. A student remembers the teacher. It is yoga, but it is changed into remembrance because the natural relationship. A patient remembers the doctor. It's natural. So to make remembrance, to practice yoga in the form of remembrance, it is important for me to understand the basis, the foundation, the cementing force that strengthens this connection. Love and faith. Not blind faith. Because if I blindly begin to connect myself with Baba, it becomes like a discipline. It becomes more a technical practice. It is not done from the heart. And that is why we find it difficult. We cannot practice it all the time. So let us look at yoga in the form of remembrance, which Baba says many times. When you use the word yoga, you may find it difficult. But it is important to have yoga before having remembrance. Now, even in remembrance, there are 3 stages. One is you make effort to remember someone. And the second stage is remembrance is natural. You are just there thinking of someone whom you love without any effort. But the third stage of remembrance is what Baba calls it sometimes as troublesome. The remembrance of that one is so frequent, so constant, that it's like a troublesome remembrance, which means I cannot forget. Even though I make effort to forget, I cannot forget that relationship. So ask yourself, let us ask ourselves, what stage of remembrance do I experience whenever I sit to remember Baba? Do I have to make effort, or the remembrance is naturally coming, or is it a remembrance that is troublesome? Who can have that kind of constant, troublesome remembrance based on love? Someone who has considered Baba as the part and parcel of their life. When you consider someone in your life as everything to you, so automatically every time you think of something, that is the person who comes in front of you. So you cannot move away from that person. Same thing, if I consider Baba as everything to me, so it is, Baba's remembrance becomes so frequent that there will be question mark then. How can I forget? Not the question mark, how can I remember? So when my remembrance reaches to that quality, then it will transform into tapasya. What is tapasya? See, the tapasya is a Sanskrit word which comes from the word tap. Tap means heat. And tapasya is a heating process. It's a kind of intense remembrance which creates a form of fire of love in my heart. So if I want to practice yoga as tapasya, I need to emerge that much of love for Baba that it creates a fire of love. And in that intense love, that is when all my sins are burnt. No, tapasya or fire of yoga. So if I want to transform remembrance into tapasya, what is it I need to do? So before even practicing remembrance as tapasya, to make remembrance natural and easy, because anything that which is easy and natural is constant. I don't need to begin to become constant, but I need to look into the method that makes it easy and natural. And for that, my experience is to look at yogi as a life, because it is a life, it is not a job. So life is like a building. A building has 4 dimensions. So in the same way, if I want to create that intense love, the fire of love, I need to experience powerful stages in yoga. And in order to experience the powerful stages, I need to look into the different dimensions of yoga, which becomes like a building. So when you think of yoga dimensions, what comes to your mind? It has 4 sides, 4 aspects: the length, the breadth, the height, and the depth. All these 4 things have to match. That is only when a building can be standing erect constantly. The length, the width, the height, and the depth. That's why whenever they build a building, they always first create a foundation. Depending upon the depth of the foundation, they can think of the height of the building. Because if the foundation is not deep, the building cannot hold, it cannot stand erect. And it is not the height and the depth, but it also is connected with the other two dimensions, the width and the length. So why you think Baba always reminds us that we should keep the chart of remembrance at least 8 hours a day. Now, during Sakar Baba's days, he used to encourage children to remember him for 8 hours a day. Now, that does not mean that I have to sit in one place for 8 hours and remember Baba. But even in that 8 hours, I can experience the 4 stages of yoga according to my time that is available to me. The 4 stages of yoga are like the maryadas of yoga practice. So if I can keep the attention to remain within that 4 lines of code of conduct of yoga practice for 8 hours during the day, I am said to be having the chart of 8 hours remembrance. And just for your information, I think you are aware, but just to repeat, the 4 stages of yoga is, one is soul consciousness, total soul consciousness, because without making this practice firm of being soul conscious, I cannot hold on to Baba's remembrance anyway. So the first stage is soul consciousness. Second stage is heart-to-heart conversation with Baba. Then that is in the angelic stage, churning knowledge, and then finally the seed stage, the Bindu stage, Videhi stage. Even in experiencing soul conscious stage, there are 4 aspects. Sometimes we can experience soul consciousness in the gross form. Sometimes we can experience soul consciousness in the subtle form. Sometimes we can experience bodiless stage. At other times we can experience incorporeal stage. So during the day, according to the work that we do through our body, we can choose what we want to experience. So once we have made this practice firm, the second stage is easy. That is recycling knowledge in our intellect, churning the ocean of knowledge. Because when I am churning the ocean of knowledge, I am actually cleansing my intellect, energizing my intellect, recycling the pure energy. And that will actually lift my consciousness from gross to the subtle. Because that is also a stage of yoga, even though it is not very powerful. Because when I am churning knowledge, I am in touch with Baba, the source of knowledge, indirectly. So that will help me to move into the third stage, where I can lift my consciousness to have heart-to-heart conversation, experiencing different relationships with Baba. Because it is important that I fill myself with the love of all relationships, so that when I am full, I move upwards. What is seed stage otherwise? Seed stage means a stage in which I am totally full. I am full of all relationships, love of all relationships, full of all powers, full of all virtues. There is nothing lacking, full and complete. So I cannot begin my yoga practice with the seed stage. I have to begin my yoga practice with soul consciousness, churning, heart to heart conversation. When I become totally full, I move upwards. Usually in Laukik world, when something is full, it comes down. It gets heavier. But here, the more empty I am, I become heavier. I sink. But the more I become full, I become light. So I am pulled towards Baba like a magnet. Unlike physical science, there like attracts opposite, but here like attracts like. So when I become full, I am pulled towards Baba, who is also perfect, constant, and absolute. So this is very important. Length of yoga during the day, at least for 8 hours, in one of these stages. If I can be within one of these 4 stages, and I'm sure it is not difficult. If I go to the 5th one, body consciousness, then I fall. So length is connected to the duration. I remember Baba, and that is connected to the breath. So you cannot expand for 8 hours just like that. So in order to expand, stretch for 8 hours, I need to take at least 8 relationships with Baba. During the day, experiencing 8 relationships, which includes all relationships. So I can stretch my intellect, I can stretch my heart, I can open my heart. And so it becomes easy. The more my length and breadth matches together, I automatically increase my height. To have the height of yoga means to create elevated thoughts, to have thoughts connected with Baba, my home, which automatically lifts my consciousness beyond this world. Not only creating elevated thoughts, but together with creating elevated thoughts, I need to hold on to that. So you can see, the deeper you go in the stages of yoga, the higher your stages becomes.
क्षेत्र का भूमंडल पर स्वर्ग रचाने आया रचनाकार रचनाकार। बिंदु स्नेह सिंधु प्रेम सुधारस